What really amazed me about Rainer Werner Fassbinder is how many movies he made before he died at a very young age of 37. He was extremely prolific, as though he knew he would burn out early, and indeed was saying something like, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." And the snapshot he offers of issues pertaining to women in the 1970s in Germany, or more largely in Europe, is very interesting. And he is pointed out as having sensitivity towards women, sensitivity towards issues pertaining to racism or anti-homosexuality. And so he's often showing the plight of them in their struggle. And when I think of how lucky he was in a way, he had federal grants and aid. He had friends who cared so passionately about his art form that they would do everything they could to make it happen before he died at 37. And in some ways, one could say that his vision was, in a sense, naive. In his youth, prior to technology, one of his films, the Dritte Generation, the third generation, was about the revolutionaries in Germany. It was so interesting because he chose to keep the televisions blaring, many, many different televisions, and it's as though he were making mockery of the many medias and the ways that propagandas are disseminated. I feel like I just found my home. I found a garage to live in. It looks like it needs to be squatted in. We're coming to end of times in some certain ways. Some people might find there's so many empty houses in America. See, look, that lock's not even there. It's just like an art gallery. It needs to be converted into an art gallery. There's a pair of jeans in there. So, wow. In some ways, America is the worst possible place to be, even despite beautiful trees like that, because the air is stuffy and there's so many cars and SUVs and smog and so many people who haven't trained themselves to think for themselves. What Fassbinder was showing with his artistic family in his films was something about youth without youth. Passion. There's something about passion. And people who are tired of the crimes of the older generation, the war crimes that were expunged from the social record via Nuremberg, who are still lingering in the souls of the children, much as the crimes of collateral murder are lingering in the souls of the children now. And the children who organize as anonymous and otherwise, moreover, we organize as internet. We are internet. We're having a look at our grapplings with moral authority. And I think what is so tellingly sad about people like me or like us is that the Rainer Werner Fassbinders who die early and die of drug addiction or suicide or overdoses, those are the people that we glamorize and the people who truly speak to us. Because in a certain way, many of us might agree that our activisms are death's door kind of activisms, knocking at heaven's gate, like not in touch with the life force. And sometimes it's because I feel so deeply that I'm not in touch with the life force that I continue on my blogging way, because I know that if the internet isn't pulled for a while in the USA, maybe a young 14-year-old kid will read it, or maybe my friends in other parts of the world will read it, and they'll understand what I'm going through. And then, more than that, it's as though even that doesn't matter to me very much. And that's where moral imperatives craft themselves. Some of us have them, some of us have their opposite, and some of us are dead. There are the dead and the undead in conjecture. And conjecture is where I situate law, art, film, culture. The gravity of war in its immensity is a cultural product of humans. It is a method of humans relating to each other, much like Facebook. It is social networking of medieval days gone by. So in the sense that I would like to disrupt those methods of war, I do not know which is more powerful, blogging or law or cinema or music or nature or prayer or mysticism. And then tomorrow there will be a march against police brutality in San Francisco and against the censorship of the activists who protest police brutality. And it's what we are going through in terms of a generation is extreme. We have international alliances that are far more pronounced and demonstrable than world leaders did 50 years ago. We have more direct communication with each other. And I think it is therein our hope begins to emerge, that we shall not destroy the earth longer. We shall not allow this unbridled, reckless war to continue to maim the people of Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan and Libya. And so then, while Syria bleeds, we must depose the regimes that keep torture lawyers in power, keep prisoners in Guantanamo, and detainees on flights from Sweden to Egypt to be tortured. And therein will spring hope on YouTube.